The gleaming headquarters of Quantum Dynamics rose 60 stories into the Manhattan skyline, its glass and steel facade reflecting the setting sun. Every night for the past 2 years, I cleaned its offices, boardrooms, and executive suites. But what no one knew was that I, David Chen, owned more of this building, and the company inside it, than anyone else. The annual shareholders gala was in full swing on the 60th floor. Crystal champagne flutes clinked as New York's financial elite congratulated themselves on another record-breaking year. CEO Marcus Winters held court near the floor-to-ceiling windows, his custom Tom Ford tuxedo probably worth more than what he thought I made in a year. I adjusted my maintenance uniform and pushed my cleaning cart past the security checkpoint. The guard barely glanced at me. After all, who pays attention to a janitor? That's exactly what my grandfather taught me when he revealed his plan 3 years ago. The best way to understand a company, he'd said from his hospital bed, is from the ground up. When I built Quantum Dynamics 40 years ago, I started as a cleaner in our first office. Now it's your turn to learn. Grandfather had been Quantum's founder, though he'd operated through shell companies and holding firms for decades. When he passed away, he left me 51% of the company's shares and strict instructions on how to claim my inheritance. Work as a janitor, his letter had specified. Learn every floor, every department, every weakness. Watch how they treat people when they think no one important is looking. Then, when the time is right, you'll know what needs to be fixed. For 2 years, I'd followed his instructions. I'd earned 2 degrees from MIT while working nights, learning every detail of Quantum's operations from the shadows. I'd watched Marcus Winters systematically dismantle my grandfather's ethical business practices, replacing them with toxic policies that prioritized short-term profits over people. I'd seen him fire dedicated employees just before their pensions vested. I cleaned up the boardroom after meetings where he'd authorized dumping toxic waste in developing countries to save money. I'd witnessed him sexually harass junior employees, then use company funds to silence them. Tonight, that would end. I was emptying trash bins near the bar when I overheard Winters talking to his inner circle. The old man's been dead 3 years, he laughed, swirling his scotch. No heir ever showed up to claim his shares. In 3 more days, they'll be distributed to current management according to the corporate charter. Gentlemen, we're about to become even richer. If he'd bothered to read the charter's fine print, he'd have known there was no such provision. My grandfather had written it himself, after all. But Winters had always been more focused on appearance than substance. Hey you, his sharp voice cut through my thoughts. What's a janitor doing at an executive event? I straightened up slowly, meeting his gaze. The room had gone quiet, executives and their wives turning to watch the drama unfold. Just cleaning up, sir, I said quietly. Well, do it somewhere else. This party is for important people only. Winters smirked at his audience. Security, remove this worthless person from my event. 2 guards started moving toward me. Perfect timing. Before you do that, I said, reaching into my uniform pocket, you might want to check the shareholder records first. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to Patricia Martinez, the head of our legal department. I'd chosen this moment carefully. Patricia was the only executive who'd consistently opposed Winters' unethical practices. What's this nonsense? Winters demanded as Patricia opened the documents. Her eyes widened as she read. These are authenticated share certificates and a DNA test confirming. She looked up at me in shock. You're Charles Chen's grandson. The room erupted in murmurs. Winters' face had gone from flushed to pale. That's impossible, he stammered. The old man didn't have any hairs. He had one, I said, removing my maintenance cap. He just wanted to make sure his hair understood the company from every level before taking control. Patricia was still reading. According to these documents, Mr. Winters lunged for the papers, but Patricia stepped back. These are notarized copies, Marcus. The originals are already with the SEC and our corporate counsel. You can't just walk in here, and Winters sputtered. Actually, I've been here all along, I corrected him. Cleaning your office, watching you destroy my grandfather's legacy, documenting every illegal decision and unethical policy. And now I'm calling an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. I turned to Patricia, Ms. Martinez, as the company's chief legal officer. Would you please ensure these documents are properly registered? and perhaps prepare a summary of the evidence I've gathered regarding Mr. Winter's various indiscretions. She nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. Of course, Mr. Chen. This is ridiculous, Winters shouted. You're just a janitor. No, Marcus, I'm your boss. And you're fired. Security did remove someone from the party that night, but it wasn't me. As Winters was escorted out, still protesting, I caught my reflection in the window. I was still wearing my maintenance uniform, but now everyone saw me differently. Everyone except Maria, one of our night shift cleaners. She gave me a knowing smile as she emptied a trash bin. Don't worry, Mr. Chen, she said softly in Spanish. Your secret was safe with us. We always knew you were different. You were the only executive who ever learned our names. I smiled back, remembering all the late-night conversations with the cleaning staff that had taught me more of the company's real operations than any management report. Please, it's still David. I But tonight, I had work to finish. I picked up my cleaning cart and began polishing the boardroom table for Monday's meeting. After all, my grandfather had taught me that no job was beneath a true leader, and I had quite a mess to clean up. Monday morning arrived with the weight of expectation hanging in Quantum Dynamics' boardroom. I stood at the window, still in my maintenance uniform, watching the sun rise over Manhattan. The cleaning staff had left the room spotless. I'd insisted on doing my regular shift until the last possible moment. At precisely 8:00 a.m., the board members began filing in. Their faces showed various degrees of shock, curiosity, and calculation as they noticed me standing at the head of the table. Marcus Winters had apparently called each of them over the weekend, trying to rally support, but the evidence Patricia Martinez had compiled was irrefutable. Good morning, I said once everyone was seated. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce someone. I opened the door and gestured to Maria, our night shift supervisor. This is Maria Hernandez. She's worked here for 15 years, keeping this building running while most of you were sleeping. She knows more about the real state of this company than anyone in this room. The board members shifted uncomfortably as Maria took a seat next to me. One of them, Robert Sterling from Finance, cleared his throat. Mr. Chen, while this is unusual. Actually, I cut in, it's exactly what this company needs. Maria has documented every late-night meeting where illegal decisions were made, every confidential document carelessly left out, every conversation executives had when they thought no one important was listening. I nodded to Patricia, who began distributing thick folders to each board member. Inside you'll find evidence of multiple violations of environmental regulations, labor laws, and SEC guidelines. You'll also find documentation of Marcus Winters' personal misconduct, including sexual harassment settlements paid with company funds. The room fell silent as the board members flipped through the damning evidence. James Wong, our oldest board member, looked up first. Your grandfather, he planned this, didn't he? I smiled, remembering grandfather's wisdom. He believed that to lead a company, you needed to understand it from every level. So he made sure his heir would learn the truth about how quantum dynamics operated, not from executive summaries, but from the people who actually keep his company running. And now, Patricia asked, what's your plan? I pulled out my own folder, one I've been preparing for 2 years. Complete transformation. First, we're going to make things right with the people this company has wronged. Over the next hour, I outline my vision, back pay and benefits for wrongfully terminated employees. A comprehensive environmental cleanup program for the communities affected by our illegal dumping. Real harassment protections with actual consequences for violators. This will cost millions, Sterling protested. The shareholders. I am the majority shareholder, I reminded him. And I'd rather have a slightly smaller profit margin than continue profiting from exploitation and corruption. Some of us might resign, threatened another board member. You're welcome to. In fact, anyone who approved Marcus's illegal activities should resign now. Severance packages are available in exchange for your cooperation with the pending investigations. By lunchtime, 4 board members had resigned. By evening, the news had hit the financial press. Hidden Here returns. Quantum Dynamics CEO ousted in dramatic boardroom coup. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change. I moved the CEO's office from the top floor to the middle of the building, converting the executive suite into a daycare center for employees' children. The dress code was eliminated. I continued wearing my maintenance uniform 2 days a week, working alongside different departments to stay connected to all levels of operations. Maria became our new head of operations, her years of practical knowledge proving invaluable in streamlining processes and improving working conditions. We established a profit-sharing program that included every employee, from executives to cleaning staff. The company cafeteria now served the same food to everyone, and the executive dining room was converted into a training center. Not everyone embraced the changes. Several executives resigned in protest when we cut their bonuses to fund employee health benefits. Marcus Winters attempted to sue, but quickly backed down when we threatened to release all the evidence we had against him. 1 month after taking control, I called an all-hands meeting in the building's atrium. Every employee from every shift and department was invited. For the first time in company history, the night shift was paid to come in during daylight hours to attend. Some of you knew me as David the Janitor, I began, looking out at the mixed crowd of suits and uniforms. Others only know me as Mr. Chen, the CEO. The truth is, I'm both, and that's exactly what this company needs to be. We need to bridge the gap between leadership and labor, between profit and purpose. I gestured to the new mission statement unveiled on the wall. Every person, every level, every day. From now on, every executive will spend 1 week per year working in entry-level positions. Every policy change will be reviewed by employees from all levels. Every bonus will be shared across all departments. The changes began showing results faster than anyone expected. Employee turnover dropped by 80%. Productivity increased as workers felt valued and heard. Our stock price took an initial hit when we announced the ethical overhaul. But within 6 months, it had rebounded stronger than ever. Investors discovered that happy employees, sustainable practices, and ethical operations were actually good for business. Other companies began copying our model, leading to a wave of corporate culture changes across the industry. 1 year after my revelation, I found Maria in the break room during her shift. She was training a new group of cleaning staff. But something was different. Mixed in with the maintenance workers were 2 senior executives, looking slightly awkward in their new uniforms. Management rotation week, she explained with a grin, teaching them how the building really runs. I picked up a mop and joined them. The executives looked startled, but Maria just laughed. First lesson, she announced. A good leader isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. Late that night, as I was finishing my rotation shift, I stopped by my grandfather's old office, now a common workspace for project teams. His portrait hung on the wall, and I swear his eyes twinkled with approval. The cleaning cart I'd used for 2 years was still there, now bronze and displayed in the lobby as a reminder of the company's transformation. Next to it, a plaque read, "Leadership isn't about being above others, it's about lifting everyone up." Marcus Winters occasionally appears in the financial news, usually complaining about how woke culture ruined his former company. Meanwhile, Quantum Dynamics has become a case study in business schools worldwide. Proof that ethical business isn't just morally right, it's profitably smart. The night shift still knows me as David. The board knows me as Mr. Chen. The media calls me the Janitor CEO. But my favorite title is one I overheard in the cafeteria. The guy who cleaned up corporate America. My grandfather's lessons echo in every decision I make. True leadership isn't about corner offices and executive perks. It's about understanding every level of your organization, valuing every person's contribution, and never forgetting that sometimes the most important insights come from the people others ignore. Today, Quantum Dynamics' stock price is at an all-time high. Our employee satisfaction ratings are the best in the industry, and every morning, I still start my day by cleaning my own office. After all, some messes need the personal touch of someone who knows the value of honest work and the true meaning of worth.